right? Like art, there are no limits in art. Like I said in my other talk, see, that's the thing I'm asking. Is anyone catching this? Because I give all of these great talks that, I mean, pretty much I don't hear anybody. I would be flocking to anybody that was saying anything fascinating or interesting at all. And they're so hard to find. It's like I don't hear anybody in hardly at all on YouTube. Like the best I can find is someone that's dead, like Terence McKenna. Definitely a great philosopher, but he's no more. Too bad he's not around anymore. But he has left such a legacy of thought for the entire world. He was definitely the greatest philosopher to come out of the United States in the last half of the 20th century. That's what I would declare. I could easily, declare that. There's no one who comes close to him. That's what philosophy takes. It takes balls, right? It's not just a chair thing where you sit on your cushioned chair and get up at the podium and, toss off a few witty remarks and give a well-rounded discussion on metaphysics. It's so much more than that. It's going in to philosophy as a psychologist, as a passionate psychologist, interested in oneself and interested in the world and interested in science and interested in all things. That is philosophy, not some academic discipline in the colleges. That's not philosophy. Nietzsche is not philosophy. Nietzsche is a writer of, he was a writer. I mean, his earliest work was philosophical. His earliest work. I mean, of course, he was a philosopher, but not that great. He was a puppet, a pet philosopher. That's what he was. He didn't really face the difficult questions or help to clarify anything. He just obscured. He dealt in obscurities, ultimately. And that's where he lost me. That's where he lost my esteem. But in his first book, right out of college, The Birth of Tragedy, that's where he nailed it. He nailed it. Nietzsche nailed it in that book. I mean, it's just perfect. The Birth of Tragedy, Dionysus, Apollo. He just goes to the root of everything in history, of all of the historical divides. That's what it basically boils down to. And he got to the root of these ideas so well. I mean, not like he said everything that could be said. That would be preposterous. Like these subjects are limitless. We have to accept that. But his thought was most lucid when he was the youngest. So philosophy benefits from psychology most of all. In fact, it is psychology. That's what psychology really is philosophy. They're not different in any way. And to separate them is the mistake. That's the great academic mistake, is to do that. So you can check that out. I had a talk recently. I talked about style and the evolution of art in connection to this too. So no comments, I know I'm probably just over people's head. I'm not only over the head of most people alive simply because my IQ is over 150. And so that puts me in a small minority, but I'm actually over the head of my entire generation, like Van Gogh was. He was over the head of his whole generation all over the world. Everyone looked at him and just thought he was nothing, right? And then look, 80 years later, it's like, even 50 years later, his stuff was just ridiculously expensive, insanely expensive. That's time for you. That's history. That's how generations work. Van Gogh worked over his generation, and to their own peril that they couldn't see him. It was to their own peril that we should have fallen further into whatever. I guess it doesn't really matter one way or the other. The idea is, it's just that the masses generally have no clue. They have no clue. Whole generations, whole peoples, self-righteous to the max. No clue. They're dark Christians. They're totally dark. How many have I met? Christians, dark. Buddhists, dark too. I've met plenty of dark Buddhists, it's just anybody. Muslims, I've met some dark Muslims. I've mostly met good Muslims around here, really nice Muslims, seemingly like bright and enlightened. But there are dark ones. There are dark people in all the religions. There are people that are caught up, that are deluded, all the religions, because it's not about religion. It's not about religion. Saving your soul is not about religion. There's the whole mistake, and it boils down to psychology, philosophy. You separate the two, you've got religion as a byproduct, as another third category. When in reality, when you connect the two, philosophy, psychology, that is higher spirituality. That is the true quest for enlightenment. And what is enlightenment? That is the philosopher's stone. Right? That point of transfiguration where people, they'll look at you and they think, like, what happened to you? You look like you're dancing on the stars. Like you're absolutely transfigured. You're not the same person I saw before. Last year, when I left school, I saw you, and you just seemed sort of like a normal guy. And now you seem like you've been struck by well, it sounds trite, but the best word to use it is enlightenment. It's enlightenment. And enlightenment is for the brave. It's not for the pussyfooted. It's not. It's not for the craven and the cloistered. But it can be. It's the funny thing is, enlightenment is also not something that's not. Right? It's not something that's not. It's not something that you can actually define when and where it will happen. All we know is that when it's happened, we have testimony of so many people that say, well, they revere solitude. They revere meditation, which is another word for prayer. But prayer is so misunderstood in the West because, like I said, there's these ripping asunder of these ideas, which are at core, they're one. Prayer, meditation, but, like Western world puts them in two categories, like psychology and philosophy, and then is left high and dry. So it's not about religion per se, but it's not about not being about anything either. It can be about anything. It can be about anything, because true enough, you're going to find books in all categories that will open your heart to beams of light in all categories. And seriously, some of the very, very best ones. You're going to know this. Your child's intuitive heart, deep inside all of us, knows that this is true. The best books, the best educational books, some of the very, very best you can get, don't have words. They're pictures. They're just pictures. Well, maybe there's some words in it too. But you don't need to read any of the words, because just looking at the pictures will communicate to you everything. And we have to take it when we can. We have to allow the flames of inspiration to light within our own hearts, because those can lead us to truth, and they can lead us to the beatific vision.